Hey now, cats, we're back again on the Balls from Ellwood show, and with me today is someone that I've been wanting to chat with for a very long time. He's the CEO and founder of my all-time favorite horror t-shirt company, and if you know Balls, you know how many years ago that I believed in this company. I love Fright Rags, and and if you know me, like 90% of my wardrobe is just that. So I I honestly am wearing, I actually wore this today so I could show you. This shirt's at least 8 years old and it's been washed a gazillion times. And I don't know if you can see the quality, but it's still holding up really good. And that's why Fright Rags is just so damn good. I'm here with CEO, founder, Ben Scrivens, and I have so many questions for you, sir. Thank you for being on the Balls from Elwood show. I've been wanting to chat with you for a long time. I'm just going to dig in. Before
Sounds
we
good.
get to Fright Rags and the company and just what a big success it's become, I actually want to ask you, what were you like growing up? Where are you from? Were you a kid that was always in the horror?
Yeah, so I'm born and raised in Rochester, New York, which is where I am right now. I'm actually like 2.5 miles away from my childhood home.
Oh, nice.
I well, I spent my first 6 years in downtown Rochester, and then we moved out to the suburb of Greece, which is only about 15 minutes away from downtown. We're near the lake, so I spent the majority of my life here. Um, but yeah, so I'm born and raised here. Like I'm the youngest of four. My oldest brothers were 10 years older, 8 years older, and then my sister was 5 years older than me. So there was, we were close growing up, but there was a gap between me and everybody else a little bit. I mean, and of course now, I mean, we're super close, but like when I was a kid, I almost had a little bit of like only child thing going on, like I was 8 when my brother went off to the Air Force and my oldest brother, and then my other brother was kind of doing his thing, and my sister, with her friends. So I kind of just, as a kid of the 80s, I was sort of left to my own devices a lot. So, I got to just go out and hang out and ride around, until the sun, the streetlights came on, the famous 80s kid trope, like just go out and do whatever until the streetlights come on, or sometimes a lot after that. So we'd ride around with my friends and stuff. But in terms of horror, that started actually really young at 4 years old. So as I mentioned, I lived down in the city, and around the corner from our house, we knew this family, the Garfanellos, who owned a deli and a little corner store. And they lived in it. They lived like in the back and upstairs were the bedrooms, and in the back was like their living room. And it was Friday, October 30th, 1981, that we were over there for a Halloween party. And again, classic 80s thing where I'm just bored or whatever. I want to go home. I'm a little kid. I was 4. And my mom just like, go watch TV, like go get out of here. We're sitting here hanging out with the parents. And I sat down, and what did I see? But Halloween came on. And that was the network television premiere on NBC, of the Friday night movie. It was Halloween. That was the first time it was ever aired on TV. So I sat and watched it by myself. Um, and that was the first time I'd ever seen anything like that. I mean, again, I was 4 years old. So what did I know up to that point with cartoons and Popeye and a little bit of Star Wars and stuff? So that really started my love of horror. I mean, when I saw that, I was scared, but also like, I just loved what I saw, the mask, everything. I mean, it's just, it imprinted on me somewhere, somehow. And since then, I just fell in love with it. And my brothers weren't really huge into horror. This was the beginning of the video rental boom. We had a Betamax for a while because Rochester was actually one of the cities they tested VHS and Betamax, and we got the beta. So they would rent maybe a horror movie once in a while, but that wasn't like their thing. I was more drawn to it. We'd go to the video stores, I'd look for these movies, and my parents for a while admitted like they were kind of worried about me. I got the Fangorias, I made the fake blood. I would like show my mom, "Hey, look, it looks like I cut myself," and they're like, "I don't know about this kid," and they realized that I was into like the magic of special effects of it all, the magic trickery of it. And they, to their credit, they allowed me to kind of, you know, fulfill these sort of, wishes in terms of getting these movies or doing this stuff. They kind of let me do my own thing. I mean, by the time I was 9, when we had already moved out to here in Greece, there was a mom and pop store right about a mile away from my house that I would rent movies from. And I would rent so many horror movies that they would they kept having to call my parents to make sure it was okay for them to rent it to me because they're rated R, you know? And finally, my parents were like, can we just sign the back of his membership card so he can just let, anything was free game except for what was behind the saloon door. You know what I mean? Um, so yeah, which was right next to the horror section.
Coincidentally.
Yeah. But anyway, so that was, my friends were kind of into it, but I had one friend that was mostly into it, and we would watch movies all the time in the summer and during the school year. We'd go up every Tuesday or Friday night and get a movie. $2.14. I'll never forget it, and always came with a box of stale popcorn that we'd finish on the way home. So that was kind of like growing up. I mean, I just loved it. And again, I had a couple friends into it, but I felt very I'm not isolated, but sort of alone in that love. Like it wasn't like my parents loved it and my brothers and my sister loved it. Like I was kind of the only one in my family and one of my only friends, one of among my friends that liked it. So once I found the internet and forums and stuff, that's, when you started meeting other fans.
Well, actually, that actually falls into the question I was going to ask you about that. I wanted to ask you, and I think you already answered it, but just to be safe, I call it the chasing the dragon moment. That's the moment where every you see a horror film, and then you go from being a casual fan to like, wow, I'm obsessed now. I want this in my life. I got to keep chasing the dragon to find the biggest, best movie, and that's going to give me that thrill, like that initial movie that I first seen. Is that Halloween for you, or is that your favorite? Is that your favorite Halloween? Is that your favorite, horror movie, or did that change over the years, or is
Oh
that
yeah, I
still your
mean,
chasing the dragon moment?
you can see behind me, I'm pretty much a fan. I mean, I've got two Halloween posters, a Halloween blanket, I'm wearing a Halloween shirt. No, that is by far my favorite movie of all time, horror or not horror. Like I mean, I love all types of movies. I'm a huge fan of movies in general, but Halloween just again, it did something to me at that young age. And we all have those stories of growing up when we were way too young and we snuck downstairs or we whatever it was, and we saw a movie and we that experience imprinted on us. And I think, like you said, that starts that chasing the dragon moment. For me, Halloween was that because it became like I liked other horror movies. I liked watching different ones, but I was always chasing the dragon of the slasher because to me it was like I want someone in a mask going out and killing random kids. Like that was not even just the mask, but just like that idea. So growing up, that's what I sought out. So I was obviously we got into Friday 13th and Nightmare on Elm Street, but then it was like Slumber Party Massacre, Slaughter High, or like you start going down this rabbit hole of slashers, The Prowler, Silent Night, Deadly Night, The Burning, all these movies where I was like, yes, feed more to me, And again, I liked other ones, but man, that was my jam. So that was my Chasing the Dragon.
Can you think of one movie that stands out in your mind that even as an adult still scares you?
Ooh, still scares me. That's a hard one. There's movies that stand out to me that make me not want to see them because of my initial thoughts. And so, for example, the Amityville Horror. I remember being scared of that movie, maybe because of the idea of the movie, maybe because of the trailer. And I mean, I saw it when I was probably, I don't know, I was a teenager, I think I saw. I don't think I saw it when I was a kid. I saw enough of it to know that I was just scared because like haunted house stuff to me, ghost stuff always freaked me out. That was my biggest like uh-oh, like that's scary to me. So, but again, I've seen that movie several times in my adulthood and it doesn't, it is pretty cheesy. It doesn't like necessarily stand up, but I will say this, every time I see it in my collection or whatever, I kind of get that moment like, even though I know if I watch it, it's going to be fine. It's almost weird. Like it still has that effect on me in some way.
That's exactly what I was talking about. I have
Yeah.
one, and I mean, it sounds silly to this day, but when I was a kid, it's funny because like my mom always was super like cool with like horror, like I drug her to every horror film. She was always cool with it. Never had a problem. In fact, it's funny, real quick. Once I'd moved out, like she didn't realize that like through all that she became a big fan. So
That's
like
a
now that's all my mom watches is horror. Like now that I'm out of the house,
Oh,
she
that's
drives
great.
my dad crazy. But coincidentally, like I always have this one. Even as an adult, I like that you said you went by and you just see it on your shelf and you're like, like the clown from the original Poltergeist for
Mm,
some reason still
yeah.
unnerves me. Like I've seen that movie a zillion times. I love it, but it just there's some weird something that just hits still. Like I just see it. I don't know if it's the way it looks or the way that scene plays out, but I still get that. And my buddy actually owns the original screen used one, and
Oh,
he always says his fiance will intentionally go out and around like so she don't have to cut through the room to see. So like I guess I'm not the only one that has that phobia still,
it's a
but
freaky clown. It's funny. I love that movie too, but still that scene, is pretty crazy. And
yeah.
and it is a freaky looking clown. Like I wouldn't want that thing in the corner of my room.
Yeah, see, I don't know. Like, cause like I love, collecting things. I'm a collector. I love, but I'm thinking, man, would I even want that in my house? Cause I honestly think I would shit my pants if I went through here at night and I seen that. So
Yeah.
yeah, but yeah, that's mine for sure. But yeah, I guess I want to let's actually get to the whole Fright Rags story. I'm actually really excited to talk to you about that. You probably told this a billion times, but I want to ask you, how did Fright Rags go from its humble beginnings and over time become like the huge success it is today?
I mean, it really was just that. It was time. I mean, when I started it in 2003, there was no inkling of it being what I would even consider a business, as silly as that sounds. Like, I was a graphic designer by trade, if you will. That's what I went to school for. That's what I was doing. I was working at a company that I was doing design, but it was for it was a really small company. I was the third person hired. I mean, we designed and manufactured laptop bags. So I didn't design the bags, but I was doing a lot of the like print ads or the website stuff or product photography. I mean, I was kind of a jack of all trades there because I had to be. Which was great. And being on the ground floor of a business, my boss was only like 10 or 12 years older than me. He had come from a company that his dad sold it was another bag company, but he wanted to focus on laptop bags. And again, this was like 2002. So, you know, it was interesting to me to see how a business worked, a small business worked. I had worked at bigger companies like Kodak and other places where you're just kind of a cog in the wheel. This was like I was seeing it. So I think that inspired a little bit something in me because as a kid, I always wanted to make something and create something and not necessarily, oh, I'm going to make this big business and make all this money or whatever. It was just that creative um, drive in me. And that kind of coalesced with design because I always liked logo design and layout design and, starting to work with Photoshop and Illustrator and Quark and stuff and doing these things on the computer. I was like, oh, this is great. Like I love the, typography and all that. And that's why I went to school for it. But then I was on a lot of these forums online where people were making like replica of Michael Myers masks or replica of Freddy gloves or Jason masks or other great things. And they were doing it just sort of out of their houses. And I started to befriend one of my good friends still today, Justin Mabry, who you might know, went on to start Trick or Treat Studios. Um, he and I just would talk for hours. I mean, literally hours into the night on the phone, same age and everything. And he had Night Owl forums. And I was just really inspired by all of those things going on at the same time. And I was, in my mid 20s. My now wife and I were just, living together in an apartment. We hadn't gotten married, had kids yet. So a lot of free time. And I just spent a lot of my time thinking, what can I do? Like, what is it that I can do? I can't make masks. I mean, I could. I've made one in high school before, but that's not my thing. And Justin does a great job. What am I going to do? Compete with him? But I started thinking of t-shirts because I had this sort of I wouldn't call it a reputation, but there was something about me that I definitely I really was particular about what I wore. Even when we go on vacation as a family, like I would like Disney or something, I'd be like, no, I don't want that shirt because that looks too like I didn't when I was a kid, I didn't have the words to really form it. As I learned more design, I kind of knew how to kind of like, no, I'm more of this style and this style. But I would like certain things. Or I would like things that were kind of ironic or parody. I mean, I had this shirt. I went into this department store and there was a white shirt with a big Gilligan face on it, just black and white. And I thought that was super cool, because it was this big Gilligan face. It was just interesting, right? So I had that kind of rolling around in my head, but and I'm such a horror fan that I never had any actual horror t-shirts. I think the only one I had up to that point was from Anchor Bay, and that was that Halloween shirt with the Michael mask and the knife, which was cool, but that design was on the back, and I didn't like back designs as much like that. I wanted it on the front. So I was kind of searching online and things, and I saw Rotten Cotton, which was around, and I thought those were cool. It wasn't my jam though. I liked what he was doing, what Sean was doing, but it wasn't. That was the only website, right? Like that really had like horror shirts. It wasn't like today where there's a million sites for everything. This was the one that I'm like, oh, this is like a guy doing it out of his house or whatever. And that's cool, but it wasn't like. I was like, I want to do something different like that, I don't want to do that. So anyway, I was coming with at the same time I was coming up with these designs, these just sort of things on my own where I had a big Jason mask that was just very stark. It was just white on black. And then I was like, what would Jesus do is kind of a saying that people are using a lot
I remember
nowadays.
that you with the what
Yeah.
would Jason do shirt. That
So
was
I,
great.
yeah, and so I came up with the what would Jason do, and that was really the thing that went, oh, I would wear that on a shirt. That to me speaks to my humor and speaks to my fandom, and I thought it was interesting enough to pursue. And I was Google searching it. I couldn't find anybody else doing that. Like it just didn't pop up in my searches. So I thought, well, maybe this is original enough to do. So Justin was like, here, you should post it on my forum and see what people think. And I didn't want to like spam his forum, but he was like all for it. And that was the first time that I was getting reactions based on something I did, especially creatively. And they were like, oh, I would totally buy that. I would buy that. I would buy that. And granted, people saying that doesn't translate to sales, but it was enough for me to go, you know what? What if I did this? Like, what if I made these shirts and sold them? And I had to figure out, okay, I have to build a website, which back then I had to use HTML, and Dreamweaver and put it all together and then link it to PayPal. And I learned a bunch of that in college, but I'd never really actually did it like for real. So I'm like, what should I call this thing? Like, I should call it something because I was big on branding and big on whatever. And I was like, terror shirts. You start doing all the words and you start drawing the lines, and I'm like, Fright Rags. That I remember like laying there next to my wife in bed. I'm like, I think I might call this thing Fright Rags. That sounds kind of cool. So I, bought the domain name, and then I had to order shirts. I ordered like 60 shirts. It cost me $600. I did it online. I didn't find a place near me, unfortunately. And I'm like, I don't have that money. Like, I have to put on a credit card. My wife was like, what are you doing? We're about to get married. Like, you're gonna go $600 into debt? Like, we were already in debt from college and other things, right? I'm like, I don't know what I'm doing. I literally have no idea what I'm doing. I'm just gonna order these shirts and see what the hell happens. So I did put it up for sale in, September of 2003, and I started getting orders. And, I wouldn't say it was like, it wasn't like the rest is history, but it was confirmation and validation for me enough to say, what if I just keep doing this? I can't quit my job, but what if this thing pays for itself? And then a few weeks later, we had a guy come into our business because my boss found him somewhere because he does screen printing because he wanted to screen print on bags. And I pulled him aside and I'm like, do you do t-shirts? He goes, oh yeah, I do them out of my garage all the time. I'm like, okay. He lived right around the corner from my work. I started using him and they were cheaper. And I would go to his house almost every day and pick up shirts. And at that point, it just sort of started and it just kept going. And it was basically me being stubborn enough to keep it going because, there would be weeks without orders. After that first initial drop, things kind of, I wouldn't say dried up, but like it wasn't like people were flooding the website and I was getting all these orders. You're like, okay. And in my mind, I'm like, well, I gotta do other designs. This is what I want to do. And now I started thinking in that mode. And I would put out new designs and try to get people on a newsletter and try to email them. And then it was like 2 weeks ago without an order. And I'd be like, I should probably not do this anymore. Like that was fun. It was a good run. Maybe I should just hang it up because what am I doing here? We're gonna get married. We're moving into a house. Like, what am I doing? And then all of a sudden, an order would come in, like from Australia, and I'd be like, "That's crazy!" Like, again, it was just this confirmation or validation or whatever I needed for me to say, "Why don't I just keep going?" And that was just that step by step, and that took it was a couple years, and then I remember distinctly driving home from work one night. I was stuck in traffic. I had been thinking about all these new t-shirt designs that I wanted to do. I was bored at work and I wanted to get a new job. So I've been working on my portfolio, and I was going to try to interview at different design places because I thought I really just wanted to change my my job up, you know? And I was sitting there and I was like, if I woke up tomorrow and I was making the same amount of money that I am right now at a new design job that I really wanted, or doing Fright Rags, what would I choose? And that sounds like an easy question to answer, but up to that point, Fright Rags as my career was not an option. It was a dream, but it wasn't an option because there was no way I wasn't making any money. I was not making any money. I mean, I was just putting all the money back into the business. So when I took the money off the table in my mind and just thought, what is it I really want to do? Level the playing field. Because in my mind, I'm like, well, I have to get another job because I have to pay the bills. I'm like, but what is it I really, really want to do? And when it really came to me and said, no, I would of course do Fright Rags. This is what I want to do. It basically made me sort of burn the boats in the sense that where I was like, you know what? I'm not going to go look for another job. I'm not going to spend any more time on this. I'm going to focus solely on Fright Rags in my spare time. I had to work, and that was 2005. And it took me another 3 years before I was able to quit my job. And then I was able to quit. And I mean, there was a lot of things that happened during that time, and I was able to save some money. And then a couple of years after that court sort of moment of clarity, my buddy was like, don't you think you can quit your job now? I'm like, I don't even know what that looks like. I mean, how do I know when I can quit my job? And we had just had a kid, and I thought, these online savings accounts are getting like 5% interest, which is crazy. Why don't I open one up at another bank that I'm not affiliated with, and I'll take the money that I make every week at my job. I'll take that exact same amount from my Fright Rags bank account, and I'll have that just go to this bank account every week automatically, and let's just see what happens.
Hmm.
The worst case scenario is that I run out of money and have to pull it back into my account. I don't lose my money, I just have to run out of it, and then I can't support myself. So I did that, and I did that for like 6 months, and I realized, oh, I have not missed a beat with my business.
Oh, wow. Hmm.
Like I was still able to make shirts and do the things I wanted. And by the way, I had 6 months of income getting 5% interest at an online savings account. I think I can do this. Like I think that was the light bulb moment for me when I realized, oh, I can quit my job. And so I quit my job in January, February of 2008, but I went to work for a design firm part-time because they needed an entry-level designer, which I was overqualified for, she told me, but I was like, I don't care. I just want something because I mean, I don't know what's going to happen. 15, 20 hours a week. I worked that job until July and I had to quit because I was just too busy. I was too busy doing Fright Rags. So at that point was like, this is it. And since then, I started hiring employees and since then, we've been doing it.
Did you ever have any naysayers when you were starting out, like telling you, hey, this is a crazy idea, it's never going to work? Hmm.
No, because the thing about the thing about what I did was it was really small at first. I didn't quit my job and went, I'm going to make shirts for a living. I don't think there was naysayers. There was definitely more people going, "Oh, that's Ben's cute shirt business, right?"
Uh,
Like,
that's
and I
even
don't
worse.
mean,
That's probably even worse.
yeah, but to be fair, most of those people were, and I would say most of those people, like in my family, they were cool with it. Like they liked it. They thought it was interesting. It wasn't like they were looking down on me. I think there were some people who were like, "Oh, that's a cute little side thing." I think for a while, my boss probably thought that, and then he started seeing the orders come in because I would bring them to my work to ship out because I didn't want to leave them sitting at my house, for the mailman to pick up. So he would let me just put them in the front door, and then I'd spend my lunch hours going to the post office for international orders. That's back when you had to hand fill everything out. But he would walk in the mornings, and sometimes there'd be like 5 bags there. And he's like, "Oh, it was a pretty good night last night." And I'm like, "Yeah, got some orders, and um, stuff like that." But so I wouldn't say naysayers. I would say people were more like, "Oh, that's pretty cool. That's pretty cute, or whatever." And then, then I got into Hot Topic, and it was like, "Oh, that's pretty crazy," or something would happen. I'd be like, or it was on TV or something, and I'm like, "Yeah." So it was a slow build, and that to me was great because I like taking risks, but I wasn't going to quit my job to do this for a living. Like that was insane. I needed to make sure I had enough of an idea of what this could be to then make that next step. And I did that all on the way. And believe me, the entire time I screwed up. I made so many mistakes. I mean, I failed so much and I continue to fail today because I'm trying things that I say, 9 times out of 10 don't work. And then you get the one thing that works and you keep moving.
Well, I wanted to ask you, can you tell me what the biggest difference from as to when you started as to how your company is today? Like how that when you started, you have like what, one, two people working for you? And I'm assuming now you have a team and things are a lot easier. Like how did your company grow?
That's a good question. So, I mean, when the first 5 years, it was just me. And then when I was able to quit my job, I hired my best friend at the time, um, from childhood, the only one that would watch horror movies with me, on a regular basis. Hired him to fill orders, and then a year later, I hired a customer service person, and then we're now a team of, well, I guess technically 9 people now, full time. So it's weird, like in the beginning, and you could go either all the way back to 2003 or even sort of the beginning of me just doing this as a full-time thing. Some things were a lot easier. Number one, we didn't do a lot of licensing back then. Now, not the ideal way of doing it because we were just kind of doing our own thing, and we got our share of cease and desists for that, and had to pay out of pocket for some things, that we were going to get sued for infringement. Fair enough. I knew what I was doing enough to know that that was not the way to do it, but I was trying to fake it until I make it, if you will, and then eventually turn into getting licensed and stuff. But without licensing, it was a lot easier just to do stuff. Um, Honestly, the thing I think about the most now is the internet has matured so much and it's changed so much over the years that now there's so much more red tape. I mean, it's unbelievable. Like,
Hmm.
for example, just to give you a quick example, we do email marketing and we do text marketing. The texting, even though we use a company that is very reputable and has all the legal stuff figured out, like now there's an issue with Texas, texting to people in Texas. Now that can become an issue. And if we have to sign up to be in this thing and have this $10,000 bond that we have to pay for and all this
Hmm.
stuff. So it's like, and we pay sales tax in like over 25 states now, and that's a whole thing. And there's so much more administrative stuff that I'm still having to figure out. And yes, I have a team of people that do a great job with what they do, but I'm still the driving force of like when something like this happens, it falls on my plate to sort of understand, figure out, talk to a lawyer, do all this stuff. Like we're still really small, I mean, we're not like I don't have like everyone on staff that can just do all these things for me. I still have to like figure this stuff out and then come up with a plan. So I feel like, especially this year, things have changed so much that you have got AI coming in, you've got searches are all different now, and you're trying to navigate all of these changes and just try to survive as a business. And COVID blew things up in such, and for us and for a lot of online companies, we were the benefactors of COVID, quite frankly. I mean, I hate saying that because it was a horrible time in the world. And it was scary and all of those things. But those 2 to 3 years were a huge boom for us. And again, a lot of online businesses. It was the biggest time. Like we blew up and it was insane. And it wasn't all good because it was like you just had a car and you were, used to going 55 miles per hour. Now you're going 100 and you're trying to figure out how to steer it. That was
Uh,
hard. And in addition to all the regulations and the things and the 6 feet apart, especially in the early days, and you're like, what are we doing? And then that starts coming down and you don't know how far it goes down. So you're trying to figure that out. So it's weird.
is it hard to get certain licenses for horror properties? And can you tell me the one that you were the most excited to land? Hmm.
It is hard. It can be hard. Some are a lot harder than others. I mean, it's fairly probably obvious by now, but the one I was most excited for was Halloween, bar none. And part of that, though, not just because it's my favorite movie, and that's a huge part of it. I've been trying to get that license since way probably too early on in my journey of Fright Rags. And I say that because I was not prepared for licensing back then, but I tried and I wrote the company. And the the thing about Halloween is I would get two steps forward and then five steps behind. Like it would almost come to getting to a deal, and then someone new would come in, and then I had to start all over. And so every 2 years, it felt like I was getting closer, and then I had to start all over. It was like climbing a hill and falling back down. And it wasn't until 2013, and I had started talking to them in 2005, around there, like that I finally was able to get in. And even then, it was like this limited sort of deal, and I just got my foot in the door, and then we've been working with them ever since, and it's been great. But it was it was this wonderful moment where I was like, we got Halloween, and then I went, oh no, what are we gonna do? Like, what can we do? Like, you start really thinking in terms of how are we going to do justice to this title? Like, how are we going to live up to this? How, and it was kind of a struggle at first because I was really worried about what we'd be able to do. And even today, now other companies have the rights to it. So there's a lot more shirts and other products coming out. You're still thinking like, what can we do that's interesting that either hasn't been done before or it's been done in a different way? So that's always a struggle.
Well, I think the thing that separates your shirts from everyone else's is A, the quality, and B, the artwork, which leads me to my next question. When it started out, was it just how do you commission artists? Like, how do you find artists to actually do your art? And then now, is there a bunch of them that you actually trying to go to, or do you still work with the same people?
So when it first started out, it was me. It was just me. And then
Oh,
someone had
wow.
contacted me. Yeah, I was doing all of it myself for the first, oh, at least 2 to 3 years. And then, well, then I started hiring, I commissioned a friend of mine because there was a couple ideas I had that I'm like, you know what? I need to spend a lot more time drawing this than I'd rather spend more time on like working on my email marketing or things like that. So I was like, hey, can you like one of my friends online, Crash Cunningham, he did some illustration, and I was like, can you make like this into a drawing? He's like, yep. And so he started doing that for me. And then I started working with other artists where I'd be like, oh, I like that style. I'm under, like Jeff Zorno. He was a big one in the beginning where he was like, man, let's do this. I'm like, cool. So we worked together for a while. And then that just evolved. And then I'd see other artists and I'd be like, oh man, I want to work with that person. And it just sort of, nowadays we have Kyle's basically our Kyle Crawford. He is full time with us and he's exclusive to us in the horror shirt realm. And he does the majority of our designs, but we have Justin Osborne. He's a huge flagship guy for us. We've been working with him for 15 years. And then we have other people that we work with that their styles. Suspiria Vilches, she's great. Zach Brown, he's awesome. So we have these styles that we're like, okay, we've got all these titles. Oh, Zach hasn't done this. Suspiria hasn't done this. Like that would be cool to like have her do that or him do this. So it's a mix. And then sometimes there's new artists that we see and we're like, oh, we should work with that person. That would be really cool. Always open to kind of seeing people's styles and seeing what they can bring to the table. But we definitely have our stable of people.
Is there one particular franchise that you would love to have the rights to, but you to this day you're having trouble nailing it down? Mm.
Yes. The white whale, which will continue to forever be the it will never happen, for lots of legal reasons, is Friday the 13th. And
Mm. Yeah,
uh
that's no
the
surprise.
yeah, look, we've done our fair share of Friday the 13th things unlicensed. Just we've done that. The issue was we tried for years with Warner Brothers, and they just, for whatever reason, I mean, they liked what we did, and we've worked with all the other major studios, but they would not sign a deal with us for anything.
Hmm.
Um, and then with the legal issues with the Jason character, and then we did have an opportunity to do the new Jason universe, which I'm sure you're very familiar with,
Yep.
but I turned it down because we had no ability to do anything classic. There was nothing, we could not do anything classic Jason. Um, and so there was too many stipulations, and quite frankly, I was not a huge fan of the new look. And
I don't think
that
a lot of people was, to be honest with
no,
you.
and quite frankly, like from a business standpoint, I didn't think it was going to be right for us to do. I didn't think we would be able to be successful because it just did not seem to get a lot of love. Not to say that maybe, look, maybe 2, 3, 5 years down the road or longer or shorter that it starts becoming, accepted by fans and other things. It's possible. I'm not saying it won't be, but if I have to shell out a considerable sum of money right now and all I'm seeing is pretty much a lot of hate for it, I mean, that's not a really good, smart business decision on our end. And I can't do stuff with the original movies, so what am I going to do, you know?
Well, I mean, you know how particular horror fans are. I mean, we're pretty particular. So I mean,
Oh, yeah, and
that's a very that's a I think that's actually a really smart move, to be honest with you. Ben, I wanted to ask you, what is the easiest and hardest part of owning a business like this?
oof. I mean, the hardest part is probably it's probably the weight of it. And what I mean by that is, when I was doing it on my own, it's one thing. I was just doing it, right? Like all I had to think about was what I wanted and what I did. When you have 8 other people that are essentially, banking on you for their livelihood, um, that is something I don't take lightly. That's something that's very like it's always on my mind because, you know, if I if I fail at that, then I fail them, and then they're, looking for another job. And I'm blessed with the people I have because the people I have want to be here. They want to be at this company. They want to be with me working on this. It's not like I have this company where it's a revolving door of people. I mean, people are with me for years and years and years. I've had to let go of 2 people in the past, but those were other issues. But it's there's no turnover. You know what I mean? I mean, I hate saying it because it sounds a cliche, but it is like a family. Um, so that's probably the hardest part because everything seems to flow through me in some way or another, and that can be hard to handle. But like when you've got people, that are counting on you, it can be difficult. The easiest part, I don't know, it I don't know if it's easy, but like maybe I can think of the best part. I mean, I'm incredibly fortunate and lucky that I wake up every morning and go, "Oh, this is what I get to do." Yes, it is like I work harder than I have ever worked at any job that I've ever had, but at the same time, it has afforded me a certain amount of freedom and a creative expression in a way that I have never had in my life. And I always tell people like I feel like I'm certifiably unemployable at this point. Like if I find a job because like I do believe that just in terms of my personality, being creative, but not a person that is anywhere near talented as the artist that we get to work with. But I mean, I'm a creative person, and I also like business and numbers and things. And I didn't go to school for business, so I wouldn't say I'm like great at that at the sense, but I've learned a lot. It's like taking those two, I have found something to do that meshes these two in a beautiful left brain, right brain way that it kind of it fires all the senses, if you will. I'm not, some days I'm stuck in one thing over another, but overall, I mean, it's just, that's great. So I guess that's not the easiest thing. I mean, there's really, I hate saying it. I don't feel like there's anything easy about it. You know what I mean? Like it's not an easy thing to do, but at the same time, I have great people. And because I love what I do, it makes it feel easy some days. It makes it feel just awesome?
Have you ever had any celebrity fans reach out to you?
Celebrity fans, like people that like our brand that reach
Yes.
out. Yeah, I mean, I've been, fortunate enough to befriend a lot of different people that I grew up watching. I mean, maybe they didn't reach out to me initially. I mean, that's happened. We've definitely had that happen in the past. But like, just I guess pulling an example out of my head, like being able to work with Rob Zombie, right? Like he really likes what we do. We were able to work with him directly. I mean, we email him directly about approvals and things, even though we have to go through other companies for his titles. We go right to him for almost everything in terms of approvals, and it's really cool. I mean, I had a call with Universal Studios a couple years ago. We were in the process of negotiating a new deal because deals tend to last only 2 years.
Hmm.
There was a newer person at the studio that it's our new contact. So you kind of do the Zoom call and you talk about, our business. And of course they see our contract. And she's like, we're having a call with Rob Zombie because he's doing this new Monsters movie. And because I was going to mention that. I was going to mention it to her, like, hey, on our new agreement, we want to do something for the new Monsters. And she's like, Rob already talked to us on the call that he wants you guys to do shirts for this movie.
Oh, that was cool.
He already wants you as a part of it. And it's like, that's cool.
That's got
But
to make you feel good. Hmm.
yeah, I mean, it really does. It absolutely does. But like people like, again, Halloween being my favorite movie, like I've gotten to know PJ Souls really well. And she's like,
Nice.
I mean, I consider her almost like family, you know what I mean? And, if we see each other at conventions, we'll go out to dinner and hang out and stuff. And there's just people like that I've been able to like, it's weird because I'm still very much a fan. I don't look at this like when I almost don't even like talking about it because I don't it feels like bragging and I don't like coming across that way. But like I still look at it from a standpoint of a fan where I look at my phone if someone's calling, I'm like, oh my God, like it takes me a second to be like,
It's like surreal. Hmm.
yeah, it's a little surreal for me, even though like someone like PJ or like Ashley Lawrence is a good friend of mine. Like we can talk for hours, and it's not even about movies or whatever. We're really good friends. We're talking about our lives and stuff. Or there's people like that where I'll just be chatting with on the phone, and they're a friend, and it's like whatever, there's friends. And yet I'm like, oh yeah, that's that person from that movie. Oh yeah, you almost forget. And look, I'm not like there's plenty of other people that have a lot of other connections and relationships, but like for me, I feel incredibly blessed and lucky when that happens. And again, it does start from a bit of a fanboy perspective, of course, and that never ends.
It
I
doesn't.
still, I'm
Really.
still sitting there looking at like PJ, being like, oh my God, it's PJ from Halloween. But at the same time, that's my friend, or people like that. So it's never lost on me, but at the same time, I'm fortunate that when those things become more than just that, not even just transactional relationship, but like an actual friendship, that's meaningful. And it's cool when that happens. And believe me, that's happened with a lot of really good friends of mine, just in the business in general, just having met at conventions and other things where people that I just we happen to click on something and we become really, really good friends over it. You know what I mean? And I would have never met that person had it not been for this business. So it's not just celebrities, it's like people, it's just anybody.
I love the fact that over the years you guys have branched out with more than just t-shirts. You do all kinds of cool things now. Like I got action figures here, lunch boxes, games, books, cups, stuff like that. Can you tell me a little bit about what prompted that to branch out in these other things? And did you consider that a risk at the time?
Yeah, it's always a risk. It's always a risk when you branch out into new things, but the 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 idea behind that is, of course, I started in t-shirts. The company is called Fright Rags. I mean, which I think back some times ago, that's a very limiting name, but like at the time I wasn't thinking of doing other things. It was just t-shirts. But that really spawned sort of naturally out of my and everybody who works with me, our general sense of nostalgia and you know, the thing is, like, we don't sell t-shirts or items. Like, we're selling memories and nostalgia. That's what we do. Yes, it's primarily horror based. That's what we do, even though we venture into other genres here and there. We're going to be doing more of that. But we sell nostalgia. So coming from that point, I go, okay, what did I grow up with? What did I love? What did as a kid, I liked trading cards, but I was not into baseball or football at the time.
I'm not either. I'm not into
So
sports at all.
like I love football now, but like when I was a kid, I was not into sports that much. I didn't collect baseball cards, but I loved the idea of baseball cards. But then Fright Flicks came out, and the Tops ones. I'm like, oh my God, these like horror movie cards. That's cool. And I know that there was like Jaws 2, and there was a few others you can go back in time and pinpoint like Gremlins and stuff like that. But I wanted Evil Dead trading cards. I wanted Halloween trading cards. You know what I mean? Like those didn't exist. And so when you start thinking in that way, you go, well, wait a minute. could I do that? Like, could I make those? And then you start trying to get the okay to do it from the studios, but also find the people that can actually do them in the old style way. So just like the Fright Scope reels we did, I loved the 3D Viewmaster when I was a kid, but was I getting horror ones? No, they didn't exist. Can I make those? Could I figure out a way to do it? And it always starts from that. And or I mean, lounge pants. My wife bought me these black lounge pants from Kohl's years ago, and they were like my favorite things ever. I mean, I would just put them on at home, and they were the most comfortable lounge pants. And I was like, wait a minute, what if I made these with horror designs on them? Now, that would be cool. So I did my research on they were made of, whatever. I contacted some factories, found a factory that could do it. We came up with some designs, and now we've got lounge pants. So it's very organic. We don't really even think about, I'll be honest, it never really comes from a standpoint of how much money we can make or, oh, that's selling really well. The only time we would do that is if, oh, that's trending, we should do a horror spin on it because that would be funny, right? It's because there's sort of a hook there. But quite frankly, it's all because we want the thing. Like we just want the thing in our hands. So if we want the thing in our hands, then maybe other people do.
You had mentioned selling well a few seconds ago. I actually had a questions, regarding that. Can you tell me what in Fright Rag's history would you consider to be the best-selling shirt? And can you also tell me one that you thought was really going to be a hit with the audience, but just disappointed you? Mm.
Ooh, that's a good question. The best seller, it's hard because there's some shirts that come in and out of sales. Like we will take away for a while and then we'll come back and whatever. And I would have to actually look at like real data to see. But like, what would Jason do was a consistent seller for years.
Hmm.
And that actually sold at Hot Topic a lot. So that was pretty cool. Um, but then Zombie versus Shark was a pretty big seller. That was all featured in This Is the End, which was really cool. So that had another bump when it was in that movie. Um, I think in recent time, we did one for Jaws. We called it Chum Bucket. It was when Chief Brody's slumming the chum, but he's turned around and you're looking from the shark's mouth. That always seemed to be a really consistent seller. I will say this, the Jaws crew shirt we did, which is just a replica of the crew shirt. I mean, it's not anything fancy, consistently sells like crazy. It's
Hmm.
wild. So I would say, though, of course, anything Halloween tends to do good. I mean, it tends to do really good, but it's hard to say like the one shirt that sold the most. But I mean, there's definitely a few in my mind. I go, oh yeah, that was a really good seller. The ones that I wanted to do better, I mean, I'll be honest, there's a ton of them. There is a ton of them. Like,
Hmm.
we do different releases where you go, man, I just thought that would hit. Like, I'll be honest, we did something for The Burning last month. I love that movie, you
So do
know.
I. I just got the 4K. Yeah.
Oh, oh, that's awesome. I don't know if I have that. I gotta pick it up. I don't even know
Oh,
if I
it's
even
worth
got
it. It
4K.
really is. I know a lot of the time you're like, is it worth the upgrade? I've already bought this movie 40 times.
I'll do
That's
it.
totally worth the
All
upgrade.
right, I'm actually gonna have to check my collections. I don't even know if I have it in 4K, and if I don't, I'm ordering it today, legit. But I thought like this would do better. I mean, I know we went a little off the path with our designs a little bit, but I thought the one yellow one would do really good, and it didn't. And that's just one. I'm only picking
Hmm.
on that because it happened like last month, but I would say that happens almost more regularly than the ones that.
Hmm.
There are definitely surprises. Like when we did our first Phantasm release, I knew Justin Osborne's would do really good. I just had a feeling I thought it would do like well. It actually did better than I expected. The Morningside Mortuary one, the black on yellow, I love the design. I thought it was great, but you never know with that color. You never know this. As much as there are a lot of Phantasm fans, you don't know if it's going to be a big enough property. And that one sold like crazy. And I was like, oh, so there are absolutely pleasant surprises out there. But I'll tell you, I think even more now, it's becoming a little bit more like, what do people want? Like, are they just not buying, or if it's just something else? So it's still a crapshoot.
Can you tell me how long does the whole process go from the fruition of the idea to the actual completion of a shirt? Hmm.
It varies. I mean, Justin Osborne, if he's doing the design, a lot of times with him, we'll give him the title and be like, look, we just need something. These are limitations because obviously with titles that we have licenses for, you don't always get the ability to use likenesses. You don't always get the ability to do certain things. So we have to tell him the limit. Like the Chum Bucket was a perfect example. We when we first got the Jaws license as part of our Universal deal, we were sitting around the office trying to figure out, like, okay, well, what can we do? We can't use anybody's face. We can use the shark. Well, that's going to get old real quick. So what are we going to do? And then we came up with this idea of having Chief Brody on the boat, like I mentioned. And the thing is, when the whole point in the movie, when he's slumming the chum, he's looking towards the camera and the shark comes out over here. That's the whole like jump scare, right? But if you're looking from the shark's mouth, you don't see his face. You see it from the reverse angle, and you can have it be black because you're inside the mouth and see the teeth. And I quickly, because normally with Justin, someone like him, we just give him the title limitations and he comes up with the concept.
Hmm.
And that happens a lot with him and even Kyle. And actually a lot of people we work with because I want their thoughts on it. I want their mind. I'll give ideas, I'll give thoughts, but I want their influence, their input on it. Unless it's something very specific where we're like, okay, we're gonna do this. I want you to draw this type of scene. So anyway, everyone works differently. Like with the chum bucket thing, I sketched it out for Justin, which is one of the only times I've ever done that for him, and he got the idea. So, it takes him, a good couple weeks, 3, sometimes 4 weeks to do the design. Kyle, on the other hand, will do like 6 designs in like a day, depending on what it is. So everyone works differently. So that's the creation part. But then you have to submit it for approval. And every studio is different. Some people get back to you in like an hour, whether it's approved or not approved. Some studios take full 10 days, sometimes 2 weeks, sometimes a month or two, which really
Wow.
screws things up because you're planning releases and you're like, okay, we want to do this release in June. We should have this approved by like end of April, early May or something, but then it keeps getting pushed off, or then they come back with notes and then you have to change it and then you have to revise it. And now you're like, well, I can't put it out this time. So it can, approvals can take anywhere from literally an hour to like a month. Most of the time it's a week to 2 weeks, depending on the studio. And then, whether it's a pre-order or we have to order ahead of time, that's when we start, the production process.
Is the process quicker now that your company's grown? Was it, or is it just kind of the same length as when we first started?
It's probably, I would say it's probably longer now because there's just so much stuff to go through. When I first started, there weren't approval processes except for me. I was like, oh, looks good, let's go. And now it's so much more of a I mean, it is a headache, but it is harder because you've got more hands in the pot. You've got to get approvals. You got to do all this thing. It becomes a lot more of a slog. I mean, it's fine, and a lot of people are great to work with, and we don't really have huge issues. But once in a while, you get a licensor that just is hard to work with, and you're like, I'm never gonna make my money on this because these people are trying to take creative control
Hmm.
over what we're doing. And I'm like, you're tying me up here. I can't do this. And that's happened a few times. And we've spent a lot of money, and then you're starting to work on product, and they keep like changing things and altering things. And I'm like, I can't do this all the time. And that's really hard to work with sometimes. But so I would say it's definitely gotten longer in general. Yeah.
One more Fright Rags related question. I'll get to some fun stuff here. Can you tell me a little bit about what the future holds for Fright Rags and what's coming up for horror fans like me? Are you allowed to spill the beans on anything, or
I
is it
mean,
still pretty tight-lipped?
it's a little bit of both. I mean, I wish I knew what the long-term outlook looked like because you can't predict it. I mean, I feel like these days it's just hard to predict anything. In terms of what we have in store, what I will say is you'll start seeing it a little bit over the next couple months, but definitely next year. We've got some things planned that are not horror related, but they are definitely nostalgia related for people of our age.
Hmm.
Um, it's definitely things that I think there's going to absolutely be people that are going to just murder us in the comments and be like, what are you doing? Like, you're Fright Rags. You shouldn't be doing this. Well, guess what? Like, we got to try things and we got to keep it interesting. And you know what? Like, there's honestly only so many horror titles. Like, there's so many you can get for licensing that we do get as many as we can, and we continue to do that. That doesn't end, that never ends. Then there's some that are just you can't find the rights to, so you have to take a chance if you want to do it, or if not, you gotta measure out the risks for that.
Hmm.
But we're all working from the same pool. us and other people. So I want to keep things interesting. And part of that is doing different categories, doing different things. But the other part of that is branching out into things that I like or I know other people like and trying it and seeing if they're into it, you know? Because if you like us for what we do, clearly for the horror element, but if you like the quality of the t-shirts or the lounge pants or the socks or whatever it is, and we can apply that to something that you might like that you've liked as a kid, well, would it stop you from buying from us just because it's not horror? I hope
No,
not,
no,
you
I think
know?
that's a good idea.
And
You
it's
piqued
not
my interest.
and we're not changing the company. It's not like we're gonna be like, whatever. Like it's we're still like 95% horror, it's just trying to do other things. So again, we've gotten our share of backlash for every anything we do that steps out of that little box that we might have had. People will find a way to just you know drill us on, but whatever. That's part of the deal.
You can't please everybody anyway. I mean,
Absolutely.
I think that's a cool idea, man. I'm looking forward to see what you guys come up with. That doesn't turn me off in the slightest. But
Oh.
enough about Fright Rags. Let's ask some fun stuff here. I wanted to ask you, have you, Ben, ever had a supernatural experience?
So I will say yes. Well, first of all, our office is in an old city morgue, and
What? I didn't know
yeah,
that.
yeah. So we've been there since 2013, and there have been supernatural things that have happened in the office, but I have not seen them. So to give you an example, we had an old radio from our old office. I've had this thing for years. We moved to the new office, and it started changing stations. It's never done that before. Don't know why it did it, but it started doing that.
Hmm.
We had people in the warehouse one day come up to the office. Our offices are above upstairs, and they were like white as a ghost. And they're like, "Did you hear that?" And we're like, "No." Like someone just screamed like help. And I was like, and the thing is, where our warehouse is, like, I hear people right on the street, right outside my window. It's not like I wouldn't be able to hear something if someone screamed help on the streets. Like, there'd be no way I could miss it. And they ran outside to find people, like it was crazy, and nothing. Um, Someone came into the warehouse one morning. There was blood in the middle of the warehouse, like on the floor. But we have motion sensors and all of that in our alarms, and nothing got triggered. So that was weird. Just a little, like it was more than a few drops, but it wasn't like a big puddle. But again, those things happened when I wasn't there,
Hmm.
and even though they're unexplained. But the one thing that happened to me as a kid, I was probably 8 or 9 years old. I used to like taking my telescope out in the backyard and looking at stars and the moon and whatever. I remember looking through the telescope and seeing some stars, and as I pulled away, I saw three like little orb-shaped objects. And I remember looking like, what is that? Like they didn't make any noise. They were larger than just stars. They appeared to be getting bigger, like they were moving toward me, but they were still off in the distance to where basically what happened was in the span of like 5 seconds, maybe, as I was trying to process this, it turned into four as a diamond, and then it just went whoosh, and then went away.
Hmm.
And again, I still can picture it vividly in my mind. Again, I was young. Who knows what it was? Was it UFOs? Maybe. I want to believe that because I like that stuff. But at the same time, who knows? That's the only thing that I've ever witnessed myself that I would consider supernatural in any way.
What's one horror film that people really seem to love that you just can't understand why people connect with it? Hmm.
Hmm. Shoot. I know I'm trying to think of ones that oh, it just popped into my head. I know there's a better answer to this question, but for me, but the one that literally just popped in my head was Jason X. I can't get around that movie. Like I get the movie, I understand its place. I like Todd Farmer who wrote it. I understand its appeal to people. I just I can't get into it. I just can't. I know there's others out there. I'd have to think of more, but that one just happened to pop up in my head because I always have fun with people when we talk about that. I'm like, I hate this movie. I don't hate it, but I just, it's not my thing.
What's one thing that you can't live without? Hmm.
Oh God. I mean, other than like my family,
Yes.
like, um, shoot. I mean, I guess if it were like an object, if it's just like if we narrow it down to like an object, it could be maybe like one of my guitars or something, you know? I do like to play music, so it's like, if I'm thinking like desert island type of thing, like I need to have that, I would be bringing one of those, if that makes sense.
What's the best gift that anyone's ever given you?
Oh man. The one thing that stands out to me that I've talked about before with people, and because it's such a great memory, when I was a kid, I was probably 6 or 7 for Christmas. All I wanted was wooden blocks. Like, and you'd see them in the back of like a JCPenney's catalog or something, and they're always brightly colored. And um, I just wanted to build with blocks. Like that's all I wanted to do. And I woke up, come downstairs, anticipating my presents, and there was a mesh potato sack under the tree for me, and it was full of blocks that my dad and my brother made for me.
Aw,
My dad helped make them, and my brother took them to his wood shop at school, and they literally handmade them. And it's funny because if you bought blocks, they're usually a lot smaller and you don't get that many. And I had this big bag full of blocks that I would play with, and I actually would play with my son when he was younger. I would build towers and like shoot them down with like my He-Man toys that had like the battering ram that shot and stuff. And that was probably like that always stuck out in my head as like my favorite Christmas present ever. Like I've gotten a lot of gifts over the years, as we all have, and I'm sure there's other ones that I could think of that were so amazing, whatever. But like that one was like from it was so meaningful to me, but also the fact that my dad and my brother made it, and like that was
makes it
super.
all the more special. Mm.
Yeah, I mean, as I got older, initially it was mostly I wanted the blocks, but as I got older, it really
Became
became more
something.
meaningful. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
What's one thing about you that fans would be surprised to know?
Um, one one thing that about me that I know people are surprised when they find out, even though more people have been finding out through various means, is that I love Wilson Phillips. I just love Wilson Phillips. It became this like this joke among people that work for me a while ago because I don't know how it came up, but I oh, you know what it is? It's because whether it's at home here or in my office at work, there will be times where I need to think. I need to escape into my notebook and just think of ideas. Like I don't want to be distracted by emails or texts or anything. I just need to really think about where we're going as a company, what we want to do, what we want to make, all this stuff. I have literally notebooks upon notebooks upon notebooks that I go through. And when I do that type of thinking, I put on music, and when I put on music, I have literally a playlist called Thinking, and it's music that gets me into a mindset. It's like traveling back in time, a lot of it, Some of it's just chill music or whatever, but some of it is a literal like uh port key to use a Harry Potter reference back to a certain time. And Wilson Phillips, I loved their first album, and I was in like eighth grade. And there's a mix of like emotions of like the girl I liked at the time and what I was going through just as an eighth grader in middle school, the things that I was watching, the Fangorias I was reading, the comic books I was reading, I was drawing, I was creating in my bedroom, listening to Wilson Phillips and other things, obviously that I need to go back to. I need to become that eighth grader when I'm thinking of things for Fright Rags. I need to become, and I need to do it sort of in this unfettered way where I can't be burdened by the business stuff at the moment. I can't be burdened by all the other things that are around me. I need to become 13 years old where I've got my Fangorias strewn about and comic books, and I'm just drawing and I'm listening to Wilson Phillips, and that does it for me. And I genuinely love the music. I'm not saying that as like a like
Like a goof.
yeah, exactly. I'm not goofing on it. I genuinely love it, and I know it's cheesy late '80s or late '90s. I get it, but like I still love it. unabashed.
I remember at the time when that came out, it was like a blockbuster, man. That like sold millions.
Absolutely.
And not
Yeah.
only that, I mean, I totally can rationalize the fact that that's like a nostalgic time capsule to put you down because music always does that, no matter what genre it is. It's always, I don't think there's any shame. I've heard a lot worse than Wilson Phillips, trust me. In fact, I
Yeah. And
probably like a lot worse than Wilson Phillips.
oh, me too. And I own it. I own it completely. And it's funny because people,
I respect that.
thank you. I mean, they joke with me about it, but they also respect it too. It's definitely a thing. Like a lot of my friends will be like, they when they hear like hold on, they'll text me like, oh, look what I'm listening to in the car or whatever. Like they think of me now with Wilson Phillips, which is hilarious.
It's funny though, because I almost feel like I could think back to that moment back then where I'm in the car and you're like rocking out to it. Like you don't think that song particularly does that, but I mean, when it gets going, you got that, you know.
Yeah,
Yeah, so like I think anybody that says they don't like that song, I think they might be lying. But anyway,
I agree.
I only got a couple more for you before we wrap up here.
Sure.
But I want to ask you, when you're not selling horse shirts, Ben, what do you do for fun? What's fun to you? Hmm.
Um, I think I said before, I like playing guitar.
Mhm.
I ebb and flow with that because I kind of get stuck in a rut. Like I like a lot of blues and other things. So like even right before our call, I was just kind of jamming out, whatever. But then there are times where I kind of don't do it as much. I do like playing music or coming up with music. So I've been doing that more lately. I got a MIDI keyboard that I've been going back to and coming up with sounds and other things, which is a lot of fun. I mean, it's weird because in some ways, I'm always doing Fright Rags. There's like things are always flowing through that filter. I mean, other than that, I mean, I exercise. I like to work out in the mornings. I go to the Y with a buddy of mine, and that's sort of my time to just we're there, and there's always the same people at the same time in the morning, so we're always working out, and that's a fun thing for me to do and go for walks. Obviously, spending time with my family, my kids, my wife, like even my parents, I love family time, friend time. I enjoy cigars and bourbon. So like I'll be outside, especially, beautiful days like today. I like just relax and do that. Um, have movies outside. I have a projector and a screen set up
Oh,
outdoors. So I can do
nice.
that and during the summer and in the not so nice times or in the night or whatever, I'll be in my movie room behind me and I have a whole setup there. But um, yeah, that's kind of it. I mean, I still just like learning about things and just kind of hanging out.
What's one thing that you tried that you would never try again? Hmm.
Oh, wow, that's a great question. Oh, well, this is a long time ago, but snowboarding. I grew up skiing as a kid, and I still like skiing today. I don't do it as much as I used to, but I thought I would be a snowboarder and never again. I'm like, no, I ski for a reason. Like I've been doing that for long enough. I'm not going to do snowboarding again.
If somebody did a biopic on the story of Fright Rags, who would you want to play you in a movie? Hmm.
Oh my God. That's hilarious. Someone told me yesterday that I reminded them of Michael Ian Black, so maybe him.
Oh, I could see that a little bit. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a compliment.
Other than that, I haven't really thought about that, so I don't know. But
I
like,
could see that. Hmm.
I mean, I wouldn't be mad at that. I like him too, so I wouldn't be upset.
I got one more for you. What do you consider to be the worst horror film ever made? Not so bad it's good, but just fucking bad. Hmm.
Oh man. Um. Okay. Okay. Again, I know there's another answer to this question if I thought about it for long enough, but I'm gonna give you the thing that pops up in my head, which could also be the same answer, or could also be for the same question you asked before about one movie that people may love that I hate.
Okay. Hmm.
John Carpenter's Vampires. I don't like that movie at all. But I
That
would
seems
look.
very divisive because I have
Yeah.
horror friends that really, really love it and really, really despise it. So like I totally could
Now,
understand
to be fair, I really can't say that that's the worst movie of all time to me. Like, I won't say that. So it's not like it's poorly made.
that.
So it probably doesn't fully answer the question. But the reason why it pops up in my head, and again, it probably better suited for the prior question, is I just I watched that movie again recently or in the last couple of years, and I'm like, this is just like it's a poor rendition of From Dusk Till Dawn, which is a much better film.
Oh yeah.
It The people in it are just mean, and I don't like any of them. I just want them all to die, you
Yeah, there
know?
really isn't any likable characters for sure.
Yeah, and I love John Carpenter obviously
So,
for
oh yeah, of
reasons,
course. Yeah,
but
I
and
mean,
he's done way more better things than bad. But like, oh my God, I don't like that. And look, if people like it, that's great. I am never one to shame somebody for liking something. That's cool, man, because I like a lot of stuff that people hate.
so do I.
But I again, I can't say that's the worst movie ever made. I just it's one that I'm just like, ugh, it's bad.
Lastly, where can we keep up with you and Fright Rags, so we can see what's going on in the future? But
So
you're on
really,
Instagram, right? You're
yeah, it's mostly Instagram. We do a little bit of Twitter or X. We don't do threads as much. TikTok we've been doing a little bit more of, but not a ton. But it's really at Fright Rags, all one word, on Instagram. Really, the best way to keep up with us is to sign up for our newsletter, whether it's email or texting. And that's right on our website. And that's just because, you know, with Instagram, things get lost in the algorithm, and a lot of people are like, "Oh, I wish I knew this was coming out." And it's like, well, we do post about these things all the time, but like there's a lot of noise, you know, and I get it. Like I miss things all the time. But at least if you get our newsletters or texts, like you'll always be up to date on what we're doing.
I missed a couple things I regret in the past, and once I have signed up for the newsletter, you do constantly get updates.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
so yeah, it does. It makes sense. Make sure you do that. I'm going to put links to all this stuff when I post this. And thank
Awesome.
you so much, Ben. It was a pleasure chatting with you, sir. Thanks for being a guest. I really had a great time talking to you. Peace and love,
Absolutely,
sir.
man.
Peace and love.
Thanks, thanks for having me on. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.